What's up, guys, and welcome to episode 1 of season 2 of Show Me Your Rig. I want to once again say thank you to everybody for sending in your systems for me to take a look at and potentially feature on the channel in this show. Just as a refresher, this season is going to be all about the non-custom water-cooled systems. I'm still going to showcase some of them as they come through, but I want to make sure that at the end of the season, we're really going to feature the best air-cooled or AIO systems that we've seen on the channel during the duration of these next 10 episodes. So without further ado, let's get into Show Me Your Rig, episode 1 of season 2. Ready to dive into custom water cooling but unclear about what parts you might need? Check out Thermaltake's new M360 Plus RGB kit. Featuring a D5 pump res combo, 16mm hard tube, Pacific Sea Pro fittings, and the best RGB implementation on the market, the M360 Plus fits all mainstream Intel and AMD sockets and is fully expandable as your system evolves. Check out the link in the video description to learn more. Just so that you guys are aware, this email address up here is very important if you want to be featured on the show. Make sure to send me as many high quality photos as you can, along with your name, the system specs, what you use it for, and any other relevant information. But just be aware, I can't feature everybody that sends it in, but I do read all of the emails and I thank you for your submissions. So once again, this email address up here, write it down, make sure you know it if you want to submit to be potentially featured here. But let's get to our first system, and that's from Gaetano. So this system is from Gaetano L. He writes, "Hi BPS Customs, my name is Gaetano and I am Swiss Italian. I subscribed not too long ago but like your content so far. If you like my rig, please share and talk about it. I posted it in 3 Facebook groups and had more positive responses than I thought because it's soft tube. I went with soft tube after Bitwit and your leaks. I guess then the disasters that we have suffered have helped to educate others, and at least that's good." So Gaetano L from Switzerland. So what we're looking at here is a Lian Li PCV3000 chassis, an Intel i7-7700K, and an Asus ROG Maximus 9 Formula motherboard. He's got Corsair Dominator Platinum memory, but did not tell me the speed or capacity, so unfortunately I'm not so sure about that. Likely it's 2x8, but don't want to make any assumptions. There are 2GB G1 Gaming 980 Ti's here in SLI. The power supply is from Seasonic. It's a Prime Platinum 1200 watts unit. And the storage, he's got 3 Western Digital 1TB blue hard drives and a Samsung 256GB M.2 NVMe SSD. The fans are all Noise Blocker Black Silent Pros. He's got some EK water blocks, radiators, and reservoir pump res combo. Fittings are Bits Power and Mayhem's liquid and soft tube. All right, so let's just jump right in here and take a look at this build. This case is enormous. I've actually never built in it, but one of the reasons is because it is so big. But Lian Li always makes really high quality stuff. So let's take a closer look at what he's got going on here. And here is a close-up of the inside. I do have some notes about this, but I did want to scroll through the rest of the photos first and see what else we can see. So this is interesting, the way he's chosen to route the soft tube down and around so as not to, I guess, interfere with the fans. And I mean, I guess he could have gone like this way and down, but because of the way he's got like the drain assembly configured down here, you can see right here in this photo that he's got the drain coming out the front, which is actually a really cool configuration. It makes sense the way he did it, and that's pretty cool. And that's one of the benefits of using soft tube, is that you do have the flexibility, literally, to do something like that, and it is pretty easy. You don't have to worry about having a crazy bend a tube, you know, when you're just dealing with hardline. And with the side of the chassis on, you could see that it does hide most of that run anyway. So it just kind of looks like this tube right here is just going right down into like the power supply shroud area. So that's really cool the way he did that. I do like the color scheme. It's basically all blacked out with the, I guess, bluish coolant in there, and then the nickel plated fittings. Yeah, so it does look really good. Like I said, though, I do have a couple notes about just looking at it from the side here. First of all, I know you, as you guys are probably aware, I'm not a huge fan of plugging in PWM headers in the middle of the board. I always tend to find a way to route them back up through this EPS cable grommet back here, and then plugging it in either via a splitter or directly into the motherboard some other way. But this is personal preference, I suppose. These, I think, the SATA cables, I would have liked to see routed. I don't know why he chose to put them through this grommet as opposed to this grommet, because you definitely could have. Maybe it was kind of a tight radius bend to make with the cables, and you didn't want to, risk damaging anything. But I think that with them kind of, and even the USB 3 also, the USB 3 could have. So the USB 3 is a little bit of a different animal just because of how stiff, like that portion of the cable actually is. It would have been difficult to make the bend into this grommet right here. But at the same time, like this is a pretty long exposed run, and it looks maybe a little sloppy. But I think I would have tried to fit it through either this grommet right here or this grommet right here. Also, he's got a zip tie that's acting as a cable comb here. It looks like there's actually cable comb underneath the zip tie, so maybe that just wasn't doing such a good job, or maybe he broke off some of the teeth of that cable comb. But you could buy those. You could buy them in huge packs if you need them, but you could just buy them individually, and they're really not that expensive. And that, I mean, this is a really nice system, and it's kind of stinks that you got pretty clearly just a zip tie hanging out there, because that looks a little rogue right in the middle of the chassis. Also, this over here that I don't know that you can see that well because my face is in the way. Hold on, let me see if I could do something about that. Okay, so this area right over here, where the looks like he has plugged in the LED strip, and it's kind of coming out through this grommet down here and running across. I think actually may have been better if he plugged it in, if he routed it down through the SSD mounting hole right here that this arrow is pointing to. That way it would have had to make a much shorter run up to plug into the strip as opposed to coming out of this grommet. Just really basic, like small things that kind of add up and make the whole package look a little bit neater. But with that being said, hold on, I gotta switch back. Okay, but with that being said, obviously this is still a really neat system. 980 Ti's are still going to be beastly in every game. And I'm sure that you're getting a huge amount of use out of this, and you're probably staying really cool too because of the amount of cooling that you have in there. I know those noise blocker fans are also no joke. They run really quiet, and they push a lot of air, especially through radiators. So I'm sure the system is performing really well for you, but just some small tweaks I think would make this just such a tighter package. And here's something I didn't actually even see before. It looks like you got another zip tie down there, and it's just kind of sticking up. Either clip that off or put another set of cable combs down there just to neaten it up a little bit. Like it's always a little strange to me when people spend so much time on their build and then the small things they don't pay attention to, because that just doing those small things that are actually usually either very inexpensive or zero cost just make such a difference. Although, granted, it may take up a little bit extra time doing that when you make your build. But Gaetano, thank you very much for sending in your system. Really appreciate it. And let's move on to the next one from Gary. All right, system number 2 from Gary S. Gary writes, love your channel, wanted to submit my setup. I usually do server and workstation builds, but I've been stepping up my personal rig for the last few years. Here it is in its current setup. So he's got a Corsair Obsidian 500D chassis, a Ryzen 7 1800X at 4.1 gigahertz, which is an excellent overclock for that chip, an Asus ROG Crosshair 6 Extreme, that's a EATX motherboard, with 32 gigs of Trident Z memory, DDR4 3600, Corsair H150i with Corsair ML120s in push-pull. Got to keep that chip cool, I guess. a PNY Accelerate 1080 Ti, which he has repasted with Thermal Grizzly and put new thermal pads in as well. Dude's serious about cooling. He's got a Western Digital Black 1TB M.2 drive, 525 gig Kingston SSD for games, and a 4TB hard drive for mass storage from Seagate. Powered by Corsair RM850i with cable mod cables, and all the fans in there are ML140 Pros or ML120 Pros. Okay, pretty serious looking build here. I like the black and red. Black and red, obviously, a lot of people do it, but if you do it right, it still looks really good. So here's just kind of an overview of the side of the chassis. I never got my hands on one of these for building. They didn't get the best reviews overall when they came out, even though they were a very exciting case that we saw at CES. So, maybe one day I'll take a look at it. But here it is with the lights, I guess partially on, but not kind of in the dark. This is kind of how it looks in the dark with the LED strips down here and some lighting up here as well. But I think we should take a look at this picture first. So he's got the Accelerate 1080 Ti mounted vertically, and obviously it looks like he switched it up. So yeah, here he's got it mounted horizontally, which actually I think this is a nice change, because these cables, the cable mod cables, need a good amount of training and to be honest with you, a lot of combs to stay straight. Otherwise, even though you put combs in them, they still kind of look like this, which is a little sloppy. Same thing up here. He's got like 2 sets of combs right next to each other for the 24 pin. And, you could see that they're still not trained very well. They tend to kind of do their own thing no matter what you do, unless you have a lot of combs going on. This is not the Pro series of cables. This is just their standard cables, and this is one of the reasons why they introduced the Pros, because they don't tend to do this. They stay much straighter. But, I think actually this vertical mount is a lot better looking overall for the system, because you don't have this exposed kind of cable mess. But you see, this is one of the problems with cases that aren't necessarily designed with vertical GPU mounting airflow in mind, how close this mount is here to this is the edge of the chassis. So when you have the GPU mounted like this, it's actually pressing right up against that glass. So I know a lot of other reviewers have talked about this, but just keep that in mind. If you see higher temps in your GPU, this is likely why. But you have repasted it, you have put new thermal pads on it, you have all these fans in your case, all these and these fans, and everything's in push pull, and it seems like you're serious about cooling. I wonder how your GPU is doing. I hope that it's staying cool for you. But this view of the case looks like you cleaned it up between this picture and this picture. You got this cable running across here. I think it's an RGB strip cable, but it's running right across the power supply. And here you kind of tucked it back here and ran it down along the side, which clearly looks much better. These cases, the power supply shrouds were pretty poorly designed, to be honest with you, because they didn't really have a lot of pass-throughs. So, unfortunately, this is kind of just what you have to do with these cables, is run them right across the top of it. It's kind of unfortunate, but maybe that's one of the reasons why they didn't get reviewed so well. Looks like a little bit of a dust problem down here. Time to dust that thing. Get a wet rag in there and clean that thing up. But the rest of the system, the color coordination on here, I really like. You have the right shade of red and the right amount of red going on. So even like your G-Skill memory matches the red LEDs that you have set up on the motherboard and on the block, and obviously the cables match as well. And then the same red, you find that on the Accelerate GPU. So really nice job color matching everything. I like that the look of all 4 memory banks full. This cable, this is for the Corsair, I guess, what are they calling it now? What their unified software is? It still Q? I forget. But this is so you can monitor your, things having to do with your pump and block. And I never plug this in, ever, just because it ends up looking like this. Like, you really can't do very much with it. It ends up running right across your your VRM heatsink. Looks like you also got a cable kind of unplugged up here in the corner, and I don't know what that is supposed to be for. Get rid of that thing. I don't know what's it doing up there. Just hanging out? That makes no sense. Is it there too? Yeah, it's there too. It's right there. I don't know. Fix that. That annoys me. What does that do in there? Yeah, let me know. I don't know. Shoot me an email or something. I'd like to know what that is. But it looks like you got a couple other cables coming down here too. When you deal with these AIOs, unfortunately, you're going to have cables coming off of them that you're going to need to find a way to route, and sometimes stuff ends up looking like this. You know, when you have a system that looks this good from far away, and you get a little bit closer, and you end up seeing, you know, this cable running across the VRMs and this cable dangling down here, it takes a little bit away from it, but not much. And overall, the system still looks really good. You know, I don't really have a whole lot that I could critique besides, you know, like a couple of rogue cables, because I really like your parts choices. I really like the fact that you have really kind of dedicated yourself to making sure that everything is running cool, and 4.1 gigahertz overclock in an 1800X is super good. I don't think that I ever got mine that high, but it just kind of depends on the chip, I guess. But yeah, really good job with this build. I do like it a lot. I like the color scheme a lot too, but I think there's just a few things that you could clean up here, just to make it that much better. And I do like the look of the vertical GPU in here more than the horizontal, but I bet your temps are better with it in this configuration. So thanks very much for sending it in, Gary. Appreciated. And let's move on to our last system of this episode. All right, so this is system number 3, the last one we're going to see in episode 1 of Show Me Your Rig Season 2. This is from Jonathan T. Jonathan writes, "This build was done on a spur of the moment when I wanted to upgrade from my 6-year-old home theater PC setup to a mild gaming / photo editing PC. Because of that, my budget was severely limited, so I spent the better part of 3 months deciding on my parts and then scouting for the best deals possible. Overall, I'm extremely satisfied with the way it turned out and for what I paid for everything. I was able to sell my old motherboard, CPU, cooler, RAM, power supply, case on eBay, and then purchase all these parts. Playing off the CPU cooler's name, I decided to theme it after the ring wraiths from Lord of the Rings. So this is a Fractal Design Meshify C Dark TG Edition case. He's got a Ryzen 5 1600 in an Asus B350F motherboard with an AMD Wraith Max cooler. He's got 16 gigs of G.Skill Trident ZRGB DDR4 3000, a Samsung 960 EVO 250 gig M.2 drive, an EVGA 980 Ti, and an EVGA 650 watt power supply. So one thing that I can definitely say is that I appreciate when people send in high quality photos, and Jonathan definitely did that. However, I think he got a little artsy with some of these angles, and unfortunately it means that it's harder for us to exactly see what's going on inside this case. But because the photo quality was so high, and because I liked the system so much, I definitely did want to still feature it here. And this is a really cool angle. You got the Ring Wraith little figurine. I wonder, is this a Funko Pop figurine? I mean, it looks like one, but it's hard to tell without being able to see like the face, because that's very trademark Pop, I guess, the way they shape the eyes. But it looks like a Funko Pop figurine of a Ring Wraith, which is pretty cool. And then obviously the Wraith cooler up here. You know, systems like this that are, I guess, you know, very mid-range. He's got a 1600, which is a great chip, but not the most expensive. He's got a 980 Ti, which is 1070-ish in performance. Again, kind of, you know, although very high performing, not the most high-end. Sometimes people don't pay as close attention to details when they're building a system like that, just because they don't feel like they really need to. You know, it's a kind of just a middle of the road system. You don't need to spruce it up or anything like that. But this is not that case because clearly he spent a lot of time planning the system out, getting the right, cables that match. He's got this little figurine in here. The lighting I really like. I mean, it's all RGB, but it looks like it's all it's all synced up, so you can see that whenever, you know, there's a photo, so we've got green on the memory and green on the fan and green on the cooler, and then here we've got, this is like a, I guess a white or a blue, and then here is like an aqua, and here's a red. So, you know, it looks like he's synced up all of the lighting in this case, which is really neat. And then the cables here too, they look great too, although there is obviously still, again, a zip tie back there, which I'm surprised that you feel like you need, because these captive combs do a really good job of training everything. Like you could see with the 24 pin, that thing is not going anywhere. That is exactly the way you want that to look. And then down here too, it looks like everything is in line. And then maybe you did that just to make it easier to fit through the grommet. I'm not sure, but you know, because of its placement and the fact that you did clip it like that, it's not super obvious, but maybe just the angle that you took this photo lets me see that. Not sure what this is over here, but it looks like it needs some kind of USB connection. From the way it looks, it almost looks like a network card of some kind, but I don't want to make any assumptions. Maybe it's a capture card. I don't know. But that, you know, and there's not much you could do when you have that connection coming right off in the middle of your system. You're not going to be able to hide that, unfortunately. You maybe you could shrink wrap it or something with some black shrink wrap to get rid of all those colors in the middle, and you know, just kind of, you just see a black cable coming down instead of green, red, yellow, black, whatever other colors are in there. So it's unfortunate that that's the way it's got to be. Maybe even consider moving this down, move it down to like another slot, and then that way this cable wouldn't have to run as far, and it wouldn't be quite as obvious. But the rest of this build looks really good, and I really am starting to like the aesthetic value of these new AMD coolers, like starting from when they introduced the Ryzen chips. Like this Wraith Max, I have one of these, and it looks really good. It's just basic black matte finish with good cooling capacity, and then this, you know, nice but kind of subtle RGB implementation. This ring here, I mean, this is not too in your face, but it does provide a little color highlight. And you know, the same thing he's got going on with this, with the fans and then the memory as well. He's kind of got, like I said, got everything synced up, and it looks really good. And there's Mr. Ring Wraith. He's coming for you, Frodo. But this is a really nice system. There's not a whole lot that I could say that needs to be changed, but again, it's hard for me to really kind of see what's going on. Like maybe up here, we don't know what your cable management looks like, although that's not a priority on this series. But I think that I really like the parts you chose. I think they fit well together, and you made the right choices as far as how to allocate your dollars. And I do like the way you've built this system. But yeah, next time just give me like a full-on side shot so that I can see what's happening here. But I definitely did want to feature this because I do like it quite a bit. So Season 2, Episode 1 is a wrap. Thanks for watching Show Me Your Rig. Once again, here's the email address if you guys want to send in your system to be featured on the channel and potentially be considered for that end of season prize like we just did for Season 1. Thanks for watching, guys. Get subscribed if you are not already. Check out the new merchandise store, where I have some cool new shirts. And hope you took something away from this video. See you next time.